What is ping in gaming? Why does my ping suck? And how can we improve ping? Let's face it, many gamers like to throw around big words like ping, ISP, and server, but I'm betting most of them have no idea how to answer any of the questions I just mentioned correctly. In this video, not only will we answer these questions, but we're also going to figure out how the internet is designed to move data. We'll get right into it, but first let's make a deal. I teach you computer science concepts through video games, and you ping that motherfucking subscribe button and leave a like. So ping and what ping actually represent are almost two entirely different things. Ping itself is simply the name of a program that exists in basically every computer ever made. Online video games like Fortnite use ping to figure out how much your game will lag, but even as a software engineer, I actually use ping in my day-to-day work. Now, that's ping, but what ping represents is the most basic form of a network request. Network requests, put simply, are how two programs on separate computers interact with each other. For example, in the code behind Call of Duty, most of the code deals with decision making and math, yada yada, but some lines of code, even though they look like they're doing some work on the computer, are actually sending remote requests to other computers and they're waiting for responses. So because ping is effectively the most basic network request, programs like Modern Warfare 3 and Rocket League rely on it as a tool to get an idea of how long your later requests will take. But that's where it ends. Ping is pretty much used only for measurement purpose before a game starts. During the game, more complex network requests are made, and these requests contain data like which button you pressed. Alright, so now that we have a clear idea of what ping is, let's talk about a question that affects us all. How can we improve ping? To see where we can improve our request speed, let's look at the lifetime of a network request, and an analogy will help. We'll compare the lifetime of a request to the process of taking a short trip with a car. Step 1. Your computer has an IP address that it wants to talk to. So, it forms a message and pushes the message through its hardware into your local network. The request goes to your home network router, either through a wire known as an Ethernet cable or through wireless waves, and then it exits your house. This is analogous to you getting ready for your trip and exiting your door. Step 2. The request then enters your internet service provider's network. An ISP is a bit like your home network on a bigger scale. Just as there are wires and routers in your house, there are wires outside of your house that link up with routers and wires from other people's houses in that region. What's special about an internet service provider is that they worry about keeping up-to-date information as to where your target lives. To continue the car analogy, this step is a bit like going to your neighborhood parking lot and checking Google Maps for paths when you're in the car. Google Maps in this case would be kind of like an ISP in the sense that it knows about paths to your target, and it worries about keeping track of roadblocks for you. Step 3. Your ISP then decides, based on the data in your message, which ISP to send your request to next. This is repeated like a game of hot potato of ISPs until you get to your target. Basically, the internet is like a bunch of ISPs which link up together pretty much the same way that highways do in real life. Most of the time, there's no direct way for traffic to get from point A to point B, or city A to city B, so ISPs simply point you to the next best highway that your traffic can go through. Step 4. The target computer receives your request, and unpacks the ones and zeros and then interprets them. To wrap up the analogy, this is like you arriving at your destination, say a hotel, and the hotel interpreting information from you such as your name and whatnot. Now that we know what the life cycle of a request looks like, let's talk about how we can improve our game's speed. We can make improvements at any step in this life cycle, such as in step 1, by connecting your game console or your PC to your home network using an Ethernet connection instead of over Wi-Fi. Although this helps a bit, the real improvement comes with step 3, the bouncing around of your requests through the ISPs of the internet. This is the step that Riot Games, the company behind League of Legends, masterfully improved when they took the initiative to decrease ping times for over 80% of their players in 2015. Riot released a semi-technical 3-article series a while back outlining how it achieved such an impressive feat, but the TLDR is as follows. Originally, the League of Legends code would make network requests to Riot's game servers, and those requests would go through the usual hot potato routing over the internet to get to the game servers. Although this kind of routing is good enough for the average use case like browsing YouTube, it's very slow for games like League of Legends that are meant to run as lively as possible. Riot mentions that a connection from California to Oregon that should have taken 14 milliseconds was taking over 70 milliseconds because of this hot potato-esque routing. That may not sound like a lot, but if one player took the shorter path and another took the longer one, the latter player is going to be 5 times slower than the prior. But why weren't Riot's requests taking the optimal path? Well, they were, but because they were relying on the public internet, optimal was being defined by other ISPs like Verizon or Comcast. These ISPs define the optimal path as the path that saves them money. Now this is understandable because for most use cases of the internet, 70 milliseconds of lag is alright. So what can a company possibly do to improve the network they're relying on if that network is the whole internet? It's not like Riot can just make their own internet, right? Actually, as far as latency is concerned, they can. Let's dive one step deeper into ISPs to see how. For starters, an ISP is almost just a fancy big router. It's like a big pool of IP addresses that it advertises to nearby ISPs that says, hey, if you're trying to talk to Riot's game servers, I'm just the right guy. And then your request follows the appropriate route. Real quick, I want to mention that an ISP is actually a company and that the little clouds I've been drawing are actually called autonomous systems. One ISP can have many autonomous systems across the globe, but conceptually this does not change anything we've been talking about. As we've mentioned before, the internet is simply a bunch of ISPs working together. So what Riot did was the following two steps. They created their own autonomous systems that advertise Riot's game servers and injected those autonomous systems strategically nearby selected autonomous systems from companies like Verizon and Comcast. When a request goes into Riot's autonomous system, they're in control of where the request goes to next. Step 2. They deployed their own literal wires, technically known as dark fibers, that connect their autonomous systems that they own together. This is a bit like you being fed up with existing highways and creating your own highway from your parking lot to the parking lot of the place you hang out at all the time. It sounds overkill, but it's necessary for real-time games to run smoothly. These two steps together basically change the lifecycle of a network request to Riot's game servers. Long story short, Riot Games made their own internet highways, which drastically shortens the distance and number of turns a network request takes when driving to Riot servers. And with these two steps, we have an answer to our question of how to substantially decrease ping. Interestingly, there are companies such as What the Fast who have used the same idea to improve ping on not just one game, but to support a whole pool of game servers with specific IP addresses. There's a lot of technical information I simplified in this video so that it's more digestible to as many people as possible. For example, I never explicitly mentioned the words protocol or BGP, which are two insanely crucial technical terms that make the internet work. Protocols are concerned with how ones and zeros are structured to form network requests, and if you'd like to see a video that explains how protocols and network requests look in a commonsensical manner, then please subscribe and check out this old video I made that teaches how the internet was created and how it works. Now if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and if you thought this video was too difficult to understand or it was just right, please give me that feedback and let me know in the comments. Thank you.